Hello, everybody, and welcome to Starseed Netlink. And today we have Soma back on my channel, and she is here to do a follow-up interview, talk about some topic subjects, about some new energy coming in, and a little bit about Ascension. So, sh- Sama, so what's been going on lately with the energy dynamic of the planet to Ascension? What has been going on, or what have you been sensing over the last couple of months?
Hi, Audrey. It's really great to connect in with you. Thank you so much for having me back. And I am doing really well. Um, I was feeling very overwhelmed with all my work that I do in the background. But I'm managing to catch up with, which is great. I'm very focused at the moment and kind of streaming through it, which is fantastic. And some of the energies I've been feeling at the moment is that is really what we're doing on a collective level, is we're unraveling a lot of stuff and sorting and organizing, and even on an unconscious energetic level, I can feel the Pleiadians building, wanting to do a channeling. So I'll do that I'll blend into it in a minute. But yeah, just I was just explaining to just now before the recording that it feels very much like a cat with a ball of wool. The cats even being the elites and the negative agendas, um, where they've woven the humanity's consciousness into all these programs and negative agendas and negative systems and ways of being. And what's actually happening now, I feel, more than ever, and it's just going to continue and continue and continue, where there's more light coming in, and all the debris and the knots and the inks, the little bumps, the little traumas, everything that's dysfunctional is being unwoven and being coming to light and being let go of and released and healed. And some of the things are ancient, going way back to the days of Atlantis and before then as well. Before Because at the time of Atlantis we were invaded by negative alien beings. That there's no other way to put it than very directly. And um, so those days are over. That contract, that very physical contract, has been um, come to an end. And we are now in a new era, a new dawn, a new age of Aquarius, a new earth, new beginnings, new systems. And the ball is rolling fast down that hill. The energy is mm, similar to a tsunami of light, where and that even involves, and this is something I wanted to mention as well, it even involves the likes of us getting onto social media, picking up our microphones, pressing record, which has been happening since 2019 with COVID. There was an influx of people that picked up their microphones and laptops and phones and pressed record and were voicing their energy, voices, opinions, and not consenting. And we've been doing that en masse ever since. And that whole energy is just building and building and building, where there's now more conferences and more information, more discoveries. Everything is really building. The energy is building so fast and quickly. And especially this year, there's going to be landings and sightings and not to mention the discoveries they keep talking about. And the couple of things I wanted to mention is that um, I I channel weekly. And last year they had, and sometimes they do predictions, not that often, more to do with weather predictions. to let people know what's coming in certain countries or areas. So last year they did a prediction of the Hurricane Helena. They also did a prediction 2, 3, or 4 weeks previous to the Florida landing. There was a landing in Florida that was recorded where there was hundreds of police cars on the way to, I think it was a mall or a mall, a shopping center in America, in Florida. And all of my stuff I record, so it's recorded that they had, the Pleiadians had given this channeling as a premonition. And also more recently, which is also recorded, the recent Egyptian discovery. I call it a rediscovery because we've known about it before in our ancient past as humanity. And also I would like to mention with the conferences and the spreading of the light and the disclosure movement and the spiritual movement of information sharing and talks and workshops and conferences and UFO gatherings and sky watchers and the whole shebang. But I'm doing a talk at fulldisclosurenow.com conference. And that is in July, between the 15th and 18th of July 2025. And that is one of the organizer for that is Brian Seng and his team. So I'm very much looking forward to that because I'm currently in Ireland, so I will be flying over sometime before the event.
That's so wonderful. I love going. I love going to that conference. I learned so much. Um, I can't go this year, but I'm hoping to go next year. But yeah, I really like that conference. So with this shift of energy and stuff, because when I can definitely sense it in a sense. Growing up, especially as a child, I've noticed that the energy was really, really dense, and now it's becoming a lot more, I guess you want to say lighter and freer and stuff.
There is a really great book by an amazing book by Mary Rodwell. And I highly recommend that all starseeds read that. And even if you don't class yourself as a starseed, um, I highly recommend to everyone, to your audience watching, listening, to get this book because there's always more to learn. There's always a new level. There's always more to discover about ourselves. And this book contains a lot of information and helps us to understand ourselves more as starseeds. And it's called The New Human. So I highly recommend that. We are delighted to join you this evening. As always, we love to speak through the ones that we do. And there are many of you, many, many of you, and many more to come. Many are in training now for our vibration to come through them. We would say that you are perhaps the first wave of starseeds. But there are many waves of starseeds. There is so much to come for all of humanity. It's stepping forward into a bright new era, future. And that's really what we'd like to focus on today is the new energies, the new little seedlings that are growing, especially at this time of year in so many places on your planet. New buds, new growth, new eras, new beginnings, new soil, new air, new breath, new. Such a beautiful time for you to be on your planet. The mass awakening of consciousness is epic. Soma can never find the words that are strong enough, that have enough emphasis, enough oomph to describe the magnitude of what is occurring on your planet. It is perhaps unmeasurable to anything that has occurred before in any type of evolution or restart or reset on your planet. And there have been several. There was Lemuria, there was Atlantis. There have been others on your planet and other planets and star systems. Science cannot answer some of the simplest basic questions, such as although that is not true, but that is the persona or the perception or what the negative agenda chooses to show you, that science cannot answer the basic questions, such as, and this is a very good example, of the bumblebee being able to fly. According to science, this shouldn't be able to occur, and yet it does. And it is such a tiny little creature, insect, animal, being that is tiny. We've said before many times that there will be great discoveries on your planet. Some of these have already occurred, such as in Egypt recently, which we've spoken of previously. The 6 months of this year, 2025, is extremely of the utmost importance. And we would like to add, kind of out of the blue, or into the blue, we are making reference there for Soma to some previous channelings we gave her many years ago. But we would like to add out of the blue that Jesus is and was Pleiadian. We would welcome any questions from you, Audrey.
My first question is the it kind of seems like over the past, I guess you want to say millennia, that Atlantis and Lemuria has sort of been like a spiritual wound. Is that starting to heal? Is that starting to like dissipate? That it was like a wound or like a warning call that not to repeat our same mistakes again, and that's slowly disappearing or slowly going away?
Yes, absolutely. And all of those time periods are all connected. we are showing Soma as we speak a graph of Lemuria, Atlantis, and now, and this graph of these periods of Lemuria, Atlantis, and now. And this does not exclude any others, but these are examples or spaces on your planet that were very well known. So Lemuria, Atlantis, and now we are showing Soma, thank you, an image of three balls of energy or dots, different colors. So you had Lemuria as a dot, you had Atlantis as a dot, and you have now as a dot, or a circle, or a ball of energy. And all these are actually connected, all of them, most especially Atlantis and now, because what is occurring now, because all of these, let us go back and just add that all of these periods of time of humanity are connected, and timelines that are all connected in the now. And the most specifically or especially the Atlantis and now were and Lemuria were evolutionary periods in humanity's past history. So Atlantis and the evolutionary period now are very, very connected. They are parallel timelines. You didn't choose as a collective on your planet to evolve at the time of Atlantis. You devolved instead of evolving. And now the rules have changed, the outcome has changed, and you do get to evolve this time. You've leapfrogged from Lemuria to Atlantis to now, which is why we were showing the dots of Lemuria, Atlantis, and now. It is a leapfrogging of your lifetimes from Lemuria to Atlantis to now, where you did have previous lifetimes. Now is the time of great evolution that goes above and beyond, thank you, above and beyond of what you had in Atlantis, and the decisions and the choices, albeit bad, perhaps, that you made. Now you understand more. You are more conscious, more awake, more aware. Your DNA is changing, going back to its original blueprint, as is your mother planet, Earth. Everything is shifting back onto its natural axis. Axis. Your DNA, your blueprint, your energy, your planet were knocked off course and changed deliberately by the invaders. We like that word because it perfectly, thank you, it perfectly describes what happened in Atlantis and the downfall of Atlantis, where you were invaded by negative alien beings. We find a lot of humor in the human beings that are very limited in their beliefs and unable to accept the truth of so many subjects. We find caring and compassion and love for humans that are different to you, Audrey, different to you, Soma, different to you, Dennis, who are caged birds and restricted in your thought, in their thoughts. They are speaking a different language of a different frequency and not able to understand what you are saying. We include Audrey, Soma, and Dennis, and many others of you who are operating at a higher frequency, a higher DNA, a higher awareness, because you are not from this planet. You were sent here. You chose to come here to your planet to make this great change and transition because your energies are different. Your DNA, your blood, your skin, your hair, your teeth, your cells, your being, your vibration, your frequency, your sound, your energy, your soul is different. And we will leave you there with that today. We thank you. We know we are keeping this short, but we would like to do many more of these with you, Audrey.
That was really interesting. There's so many more questions to ask, but that was kind of interesting.
I know, I know.
So while you were channeling, were you like in the background or like viewing what they were showing you while you were talking?
Yeah, I step aside and allow them to step in. So that's my process. And it's very similar to a lot of other channels' process where we do get out of the way of our own, because sometimes they do say things that I might not necessarily agree with. Um, but I understand them as being more evolved than I am. So sometimes my opinion does change after a channeling. Sometimes it can take me a while to get my head around things or to process information. Um, or to understand things, I guess. One of the, as an example, one of the things was I was always hearing about um, how the earth would divide into two and we would have multiple earths. And I never understood how that would happen until they did a channeling back in on the cusp of Christmas at 2019 and 2020, where they did a channeling with me, transmissions, and a whole load of transmissions around that time because of what was occurring on the planet. And they explained to me in visual images and telepathic transmissions and downloads of how that would occur. And they explained that it was a, a beam of light would hit the Earth at the time, or was hitting the Earth at the time of January 2020 and February 2020, and that would just increase and increase. And it was a huge beam of energy, hundreds, thousands of feet that was coming down from above, much like a torch beam of light coming down. And it would get so intense that it would actually so intense that it would actually cause the earth to twist and multiply, not divide, but multiply into two earths. And one would go into a higher frequency, vibration, energy, and the other would stay where it was, or it would drop into an even lower frequency, vibration, and energy. And so that was something that they showed me in a way that I could process and understand, because I understand energy and how it works and how it can build or dissipate. Um, so that's an example of that. Yeah. And it's so lovely to be able to channel for you. I know that that was a very short session or interview, and I'm sure you've got, but so I would like to do more with you.
Yeah, I would love to. I think it's kind of like interesting and talking with them and learning about them because we have so many different people that channel um the Pleiadian collective. And for me as a researcher, we don't really get to learn more about them. They always come here and bring messages or bring information, but we never, on the receiving end, turn it back around and be like, what is your guys' culture like? What does your planet look like? Like, what is how is your culture different from us and how is it similar? And because we have these wonderful people with channeling, but it's also like me wanting to learn more about their culture and let people understand who and what they are and ask information and stuff. And essentially, due to the fact that they've been around longer than us, trying to get more history or historical facts from them about, well, we've been hearing this, and this from our history, from ancient texts. How does that line up to you guys? Is it the same? Did they alter history a little bit and stuff? I was going to ask the Pleiadians if there was another time to sneak in another question, but I was going to ask them, um, what are some of the misconceptions or stuff that we're getting wrong about Atlantis and Lemuria? Because we have so many different, um, I guess we're going to say information about Atlantis and Lemuria. It'd be kind of good to get their opinion. It's like, so we know this, and this from Atlantis and Lemuria from different people and stuff. And it's just like trying to like collaborate and confirm different pieces of information. But I'm a researcher. I love researching. I love trying to see how much of the information has changed compared to and see how it correlates to other pieces of information that other people get or to like confirmation and stuff. But yeah, I think it would be kind of interesting to see and get more channeling information out of them as time goes on.
Yeah. So let me just add to that, because it's really important that it is really important what you're saying. And um questions are really important. I've always, it's kind of innate within me that I've always questioned everything, even the weatherman, the simple stuff, because I don't really believe anyone until I experience it or am told by the Pleiadians. And that includes, a lot of the information that's out there, predominantly a lot of the information that's out there. But I have two groups. One is on a Saturday, 7 p.m. Irish time, where I channel the Pleiadians. Now, everybody is welcome to come and join that. It's it's by donation if you can. If you can't, come and join anyway. And also a Sunday group at 3 p.m. Irish time, which is the same setup. It's where I channel, but it's a different kind of vibe, a different kind of energy, a different kind of group. Um, and it's normally on specific subjects that were pre-written out by them through my hand, through me. And both groups are you can by donation. And then I also have a third group, which is specifically for people that have paid to join my Substack, even if it's €7 a month. That group is the first of every month. And also in that group, I do answer, well, they do answer questions during a channeling. So if you have questions and your audience have questions, come and join that group or send me the questions. If you can't join because of time or money or then email me the questions. And my email is thepleiadianchild@hotmail.com. Or you can join my Substack, which is free and paid. And then you can message me on there. Or you can join my Rumble. I'm kind of coming away from YouTube and Facebook because of all the censorship. So yeah, thank you for this evening, Audrey. It's been really great, and I very much look forward to connecting in with you again.
Yeah, yeah, I have to find now that I'm out of school now, I have some more free time that I would love to come um and join some of your channeling sessions and see and get some interesting answers from that. Um, my other question when it comes to channeling, when you sort of like go back in the background in channeling, do you have to like change your thought pattern? Like I understand a lot of people talk about you have to block out your egoistic mindset or how you're like thinking in order to get them into your um I guess body in order to channel. Is there like something that they did to like train you in order to get them into um
It's a
coming.
great question. That's an amazing question, really. And I'm pretty gobsmacked, using an English phrase, amazed that you would ask that because that's so intuitive. So what would happen to me as a child? I'm a very unusual, um, not unusual soul because there's thousands of us as starseeds on Earth, thousands of us. Um, but I had a very unusual childhood and a very unusual life right from my birth, um, where I was actually born with jaundice, due to what I believe was my mum's alcohol addiction. But anyway, so I would have had a lot of trauma as a child in the extreme where I would leave my body because the first time I consciously remember it, I had my mum's boyfriend called Bill, who was on top of me. And he was a big man. He was heavy and he stunk of whiskey. And I couldn't breathe. I was underfed, undernourished, and I literally couldn't breathe. And I left my body and I went up to the left side of the room. And I connected to the Pleiadians, or they connected to me. So I would have had an enormous amount of training as a child in leaving my body, an enormous amount of training and experience of leaving my body during times of abuse, such as that one, but also every night I would sleep, I would fall asleep and I would leave my body every night, practically from the age of 8. And that's only the conscious memories of 8. I'm sure I was doing that before the age of 8, since I was in the cot, actually, that my shamanic teacher has said or did say. So my childhood experiences were very unusual, and I had a lot of training, and that's how I see it now. It was training. I had downloads, transmissions from the Pleiadians, specifically Ashtar, who is the main person that I channel. and the Pleiadian Collective. I was given a lot of information as a child by them, um, in transmissions and downloads. And I didn't know it was them. I just thought it was my guides. I had no idea it was a positive alien light beings. And I'm glad I didn't know at that age, because I probably would have got very egotistical had I known that then, given the poverty that we were living in. Um, and the extremity of that, because we didn't, I wasn't fed. I remember one time, and I'm starting to get emotional with it, but I remember my mum walking. We were walking in Dalston Market in Hackney. No, well, that we lived in Hackney, but Dalston Market was about half an hour away on the bus, or actually, it was walking half an hour or 15 minutes on the bus. Dalston Market, um, quite a big market in London. And I remember her walking along and smoking, and she was dressed very nicely. Um, she always tried to take care of herself sometimes. And we were picking up the rotten fruit. Um, and I I wasn't sure at the time why we were doing that. I wasn't sure if she was um and this is to eat. We were picking it up to eat. And I remember just kind of looking at her, and I remember having the thought at that age. I wasn't sure if she was doing it because we needed to eat, or if she was were we that poor? Or if she was doing it because she was unstable. I remember very clearly questioning her in my mind at that time, and wondering why we were doing that. Um, but I realized later on that it must have been because we were that poor. So that's one of the kind of extreme experiences I had. But yeah, I always had my guides around me, which were the Pleiadians, which are the Pleiadians, and Ashtar and many moons, or Black Elk, as he's known. But I actually really don't like sharing that publicly, because I like to keep him kind of private. But he's one of my guides. Maybe if you could please edit that out. Um,
Oh,
that's just a joke. That's a joke. That's a joke.
oh, okay.
Anyway, so that's some of the stuff. So I would have had very, very extreme experiences. And I'm grateful for all of them, because all of them were such a great learning curve. It was really an amazing training ground. I mean, I had so many negative experiences. It was wonderful, because when I had something negative, I would have a positive experience. My guides were always there to back me up and have my back and give me something positive, spiritual, that somehow, ironically or cathartically, would balance the negative. And I take my hat off to people who've gone through similar stuff, to whatever level, who because who don't have that spirit, or haven't had that spiritual support. Support is a great word, because I always had that. I always had that. It's the only thing that ever got me through. I would never have got through that horrendous abuse had it not been for my guides and Ashtar. And so I don't know how people get through the abuse. I had huge support as a child. Um, and I'm so grateful. A huge training ground, with spirits and the Pleiadians and spirit guides, and my own granddad, and nature spirits and fairies and trees and elves. And we spent a lot of time in Ireland when I was a child. And so I had a great nature environment, in Ireland, not in the UK, because I grew up in the UK predominantly, but um, I had a lot of years in Ireland, with spent in the gardens in my granny's house, and very connected to visibly connected to the nature fairies and tree spirits and um mm, yeah, just beautiful time. I really scared my granny, um and she was very scared of me because I was be talking about seeing, playing, communicating with all of those nature spirits and the tree spirits and the fairies and the elves and the goblins, and it was a beautiful childhood. It was off the scale in terms of being able to communicate with so many different types of spirits and light beings. Not just human, not just my granddad's, not just human spirits, but the whole works. It was just beautiful. So anyway, I'm going to pause there, but thank you very much.
So my other question that I had, um,
Okay.
while you were channeling, the Palladian Collective talked about a third name called Dennis. Do you know who they were talking about?
Dennis is my partner. Dennis, yeah. Dennis is my partner here in Ireland.
Oh, okay, okay. So that's what they were referring to. Okay. Um, the other thing that I have a question is I understand that you had a lot of training when it comes to channeling and stuff. Has channeling changed for you over the years of how they used to come while you were a child to now? Has that changed, or has it always been the same since then?
No, it's very much changed. They they have worked with me for such a long time since I was consciously that I can remember since I was 8, that very first experience. And I know there's others experiences before that in this lifetime. And also previously, I would have had a lifetime on the Pleiadian star system. They have predominantly since 2009, where they consciously began to channel, where I began to channel consciously, or because I'd forgotten all the childhood memories. I'd forgotten all of it. And so since then, since 2009, they've worked with me in very different ways. Um, they sometimes it's almost like, how can I describe that? So they'll work with me perhaps, and this has been ongoing since 2009. So they'll work with me maybe for a year or 3 months or 6 months or a certain period of time where they will do work with me in a certain way. At the very beginning, because I'd had so much um, mediumship and psychic training as a child and continued in my 20s in a more physical way where I was learning mediumship through the spiritualist churches and receiving certificates and doing courses and workshops and all of that thing, as well as just being able to see spirit. So the way I started to channel them in 2009 or 10, they turned up behind me. And I could see them in the same way that I was seeing spirit for all those years as a child. And Ashtar turned up behind me and slightly to my left. And then he had a group of beings behind him that are Pleiadian Collective, who he also speaks as a spokesperson for them as well. So I could see him physically in my mind's eye, very aware of him. And at the same time, I was receiving information from him telepathically. And while I was doing that, I was typing what he was saying on my laptop because I can type faster than I can write with a pen. So it was very much like taking dictation. Exactly like that, exactly taking dictation. And then they've also worked since then. They've also worked with me in a very different way, where they have stepped into my body, not just next to me where I'm taking telepathic transmissions or downloads or information, but rather stepped into me, which is, spirit can also do the same thing with mediums, which is called transfiguration mediumship, when it's with a spirit or a loved one in spirit. When it's with a Pleiadian or a light being, such as Pleiadian energy, it's called trans voice mediumship, where they step into your body and use your voice. So, and I've also worked in other ways as well. Um, so, and it seems each time they work with me in a different way, it's another training, or it's another way of working with them. So there's many ways that I do work with them, but it always involves telepathy. It always involves a transmission. It always involves a download. However they present themselves, there's always a download, a transmission, also images as well, which I get parallel to or alongside, thank you, alongside the transmissions. So I'll get a stream of telepathic information or download or transmission, and I also get an image, which are never the same. The information is not the information in an image. It's two different streams of information regarding different things. So I could be getting information about the moon being a satellite, and then in an image I could be seeing two suns or some other type of information. So that is a bit harder to say, because I don't know which to focus on sometimes. So that they yeah, so sometimes that's why I pause, because I'm seeing information visually in an image and also receiving it telepathically. So they also have worked with me in other ways, where something else was coming to mind then and it's gone now. But yeah, they've worked with me in other ways. So they work with me in different ways, but it's always a download or transmission. Oh yes, thank you. And they were just saying that I've now started to that they've since 2019, my work has really changed quite dramatically when I look back on it. And they're always adding things to my bow or to my experience, always adding things. And one of the things they've really added is is the fact that they're now around me 24/7, always with me. Then they don't. I used to go in and tune in and step into that energy and then step out of it. And I still do that, but they're always around. So my connection with them is stronger than ever. And I think that is also a collective thing. I think that is, as the energy on the planet increases, their ability to anchor in their energy is more than ever. So that is a collective thing. It's not just to do with me, because I'm not special in any way, but the consciousness is raising to the level where they are more able to have more of a ever-present, consistent space, even though it's on a higher dimension on Earth. So the frequency of the planet is raising, so they're able to do that, which is beautiful. And another thing that has another way they work with me is that I'm now able to channel with my eyes open, and I never used to be able to do that. So that's another string to my bow, or another way that they work with me. You know, sometimes people don't realize, especially in interviews, like I can be talking to you now, and it's actually it's still them talking through me, you know.
So, my other question that I have for you, when you're channeling the Pleiadians, when you're tuning into them, how do you perceive them, or like what do they appear like? Because there's been many depictions online about like what Ashtar looks like, what the Pleiadians look like, and people who channel them could perceive them completely different than what is orchestrated online through, I guess you want to say, corruption and stuff. So I'm just like interested to see like how do you see them? How do they appear to you? What do they look like? Because they could be completely different than what we see depictions of them online and stuff.
That's a great question. Um, I'm just about to release some clips or images or clips, posters, I guess. Which will I hope help um, to describe how I see Ashtar. Ashtar is, and I do see him physically. Ashtar is very tall, blonde, blue-eyed, thin, angular features. Um, Always has a sense of blue around him, as does Archangel Michael. Um, and his clothing is, I guess, like a blue suit with a robe on, either a blue robe or a yellow robe. Um, but there is a lot of blue in his aura and also a lot of gold as well. So they are very similar to some of the images that would depict him as that. And I actually, when I first, in 2009, when I first consciously began to channel them, um, and I'd forgotten all the childhood memories, but I had to Google them because I didn't know who they were. I had forgotten. So I did Google Ashtar and what he looks like, and the blonde blue hair, sorry, the blonde hair, blue-eyed, is how I see him. Um, so that would be an accurate des description, depiction of him.
What do their uniforms look like? Do they wear uniforms? Do you see what their ships look like or anything like that? Do they like show you like how like
Yes,
intricate details about their culture and stuff?
yes, I have been up on the ships hundreds of times, so many that I can't even remember. But there are particular experiences I've had that I've been on different ships, some very positive, like the Pleiadians, but also negative um, grey beings. I'll take out the word negative because I think the people that the greys work for are negative. I don't think the greys are particularly negative, although they are enslaved and made to work for other species that would be negative. But yes, I've been on the grey ship, on the ships owned by the greys, and had some experiments done, which
Yeah,
is in my book.
I have some very interesting experiences with the Greys. Um, they're not evil. I just have some very interesting encounters with them. One of the encounters or the memories that keeps popping up in my head when I was a little kid. Um, I used to go to a private school, and one of the things they would do is do show and tell, or like have a little journal of like the little interesting activities we would do with a stuffed animal and stuff. So each kid would bring a home a stuffed animal to like write, to order to practice writing skills or like writing sentences and stuff. And I had this really interesting encounter where I took this bear that we had from the classroom when I was being taken as a little kid. And I was like, well, I'm taking my little bear on an adventure and I'm gonna write about it in the journal when I go home. And I specifically remember as a little kid asking them, and it's like, I want to bring one home with me for show and tell. Like, I want to bring you to school and bring you to show and tell. And they're like, you can't bring us to show and tell. You can't bring us home. And I was like, why not? Like, why can't I like bring you? And like for show and tell. And I was like actually like a little kid, like plotting out exactly how I would do it. And so and I was talking to a hybrid and it's like they're not evil. Like I can understand from talking with SSP people that they might be spiritually sterile, but I don't see that from them. It's just that they just been taken advantage of a lot by other races. And they are trying to figure out their self-identity as a race and figure out because I do know that they were under rulership or control with the Anunnaki for a very, very long time, and they're starting to learn to get their freedom back. So So I had like good memories and bad memories, but it's like it's kind of interesting because I see them because they how do you want to put it? They have this like you know how you have astral vision and you see stuff and then they like change it a little bit so what you're seeing is not exactly what you're seeing, but they're changed just a little bit so you don't get freaked out or like perceive in the way that they can help you understand about what is going on and stuff.
I, yeah, I think everything that you're saying is accurate, and I, a lot of people do perceive them as negative, but I see them as being employees more and following orders and instructions of things that they need to do. They are under instruction. Um, and when I was on board, I was having negative experiments done on me. And this is all in my book, The Pleiadian Child. But so I was on one of their ships on the little grey ships, and I was having these negative experiments done on me that were extremely painful and very negative, but they weren't negative. They were employees that were following orders and instructions, and so they were kind of on the fence. But I do remember that there was a lot of other people in the room screaming in pain and screaming in terror. Um, so yeah, but that's in my book, The Pleiadian Child. But also going back to the more positive of um the Pleiadian ships are circular. And I remember being at the window of one of them and looking out and seeing the universe. And it's just so beautiful, so amazing. And the flooring is like white tiles, very white. And there's light coming from all around. Um, it felt like a natural light, but it couldn't have been a natural light. So it was a light that didn't seem to have a light source. Although there was, I believe, some type of lighting on the ceiling, because there was light coming from everywhere. It was coming from the floor, it was coming from the walls, it was coming from above. Everything was white and light, and then there was very large window, almost from one side of the ship to the other, which I've seen in I've seen images of that on the internet, which and that's exactly what I was seeing. So that's very accurate. And they are able now, they've advanced where they're able to control the ships with their minds. That's how they operate them. And
Do you
uh,
ever sense that there's just to be biomechanical or any way or no, not really?
What do you mean?
Some SSP members have stated that some ETs ships can be biomechanical, like they're semi-life form-ish. Have you ever experienced that?
I I would say it's either that is accurate or it's verging on that. There's an element of that. Yeah, I would say so. With the technology that they have that is so advanced, yeah.
Um, I think that's all the questions that I have for today because this is really interesting. It's been a long time since I've been in front of a channeling session, so it's kind of interesting. Um, but I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. Is there any last messages or any type of advice that you want to give out before we wrap up the show?
Yeah, there is. Everyone, listen up. Time to let go of stuff, to let go of not just emotions and past hurts, past traumas, past relationships, past grief. Um, but also to have a physical spring clean. Go hoover, go clean your houses, go get rid of all that note taking and previous studying, taking notes and stuff like that. And um, let go of everything. Go clean the house, go make good food, take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, take care of your family. Focus on you. Focus on your loved ones. Focus on your relationships. Turn off the news. Turn off the shit show. Turn off the programming on the news, on the radio. Look into research. The conspiracy theories are not conspiracy theories when they are proven or admitted, such as the chemtrails, which are now they have released information. There are many people that have released information, such as governments and companies that have now told us that they are spraying us with chemicals, with toxins and poisons. And that is one of the subjects that really gets my goat, because for so long we've been called crazy conspiracy theories for things like that, and that is one of the big issues that we've had. Um, within the conspiracy movement or theories, I won't call it a movement, with the truth and movement and the conspiracy theories, is to do with the weather modification, the chemtrails, or the weather engineering, or the cloud seeding, whatever word or phrase or name you want to give it. It is toxic poison and chemicals being sprayed down onto the earth and down onto humanity. There are um, um, elements or chemicals or something that has, I think maybe it's aluminium, can't even pronounce the word, but that has been found in the heights of Tibet and Mount Everest, where there is no possible way that could get there. Those elements, there's no possible way those elements could get there unless it's being sprayed from above. So with that being said, we need to look at other conspiracy theories, because they're not that at all. That was a phrase that was invented by the CIA back in the 70s or 40s or whenever it was. Anyway, I'm going on too much, Audrey. I'm sorry.
No, no, it's totally okay. It's totally okay. It's kind of interesting. Um, but thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for sharing the information. Um, I think it's really, really interesting. I think it's really good that we have people to that we get broadcast information from ETs,
Yes.
and seeing how that information lines up or gets confirmed over the years. I think it's really interesting. I think it's really good. It's just that there has been so much, how do you want to say, propaganda, how or like brainwashing, that in order to like see and perceive certain things to be evil or bad and stuff, but we're always so used to seeing something bad and negative and not like pushing that to the side and just be purely curious and just question and just explore without fearing fear. I think we'll get a lot more answers in my understanding that way if we just learn to get over like our fear and our understanding about having contact with ETs and just learning, because it's so interesting to see how much of our information has changed, how much stuff that I have known growing up about stuff has changed or being shed a light. So it's good that we have people like you that get broadcast messages and see how they have stayed true all this time, or how much has
Yeah.
come
And he
forward.
and here's the thing, Audrey. Um, we are all in an evolutionary period, including myself, including other channelers. So we do progress as we get more experience, as we grow, as we learn, as we adapt, as we process information that we get through transmissions and downloads, as we are all evolving, we're all in this together. Channelers, mediums, psychics, shamans are not to be put on a pedestal, are not to be um, ridiculed, is the word that's also coming to mind, especially if they're in the early stages of their own development. Um, so, um, allowance, acceptance, understanding, compassion, love, all are qualities that we need to focus on, that are extremely important at this time. You know, let go of even one of the things that I've had to let go of recently is survival mode and the lack mentality, and to incorporate more of the abundance frequency. Um, because love is a frequency that can be measured, but so is abundance. And anything that we can measure, we can create. We can create it. If it's measurable, it's something that is created within us internally. So we can change. We can change, we can progress, we can learn, we can adapt, we can come away from the old ways of the old earth that no longer serves us, whether it's lack of abundance, or whether it's trauma or abuse or rape or poverty or alcoholic parents, or we can step into a totally new energy, frequency, evolution, vibration, sound, mm, consciousness where it's more expanded, where it's all the good stuff, like love, abundance, new earth, new beginnings, new fields, new rice, new soil, new good stuff, good soil, good air, good water, good vibrations, good frequency, good energy, good alien beings, good systems on earth, such as political, government, military, money. Um, Everything is changing, crumbling, falling away, burning away. what a beautiful time to be alive. I mean, this has never happened before in the way that it's happening now. This is unique.
So yeah, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for sharing this information. I really appreciate it. And I hope that you have a wonderful evening there.
Thank you so much. And I love you very much.